Standing Rule 11 clarifies the date when an approved car motion goes into effect. Unless otherwise specified, the approved motion becomes effective at the conclusion of the conference.
Standing Rule 12 reminds us that the standing rules for the conference are to be applied along with the Nar-Anon 12 traditions, Nar-Anon 12 concepts of service, and Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised.
Rule 13 says that technology can be used to hear and speak during the World Service Conference. Rule 13 does not say which technologies will be used, and it does not say how they will be used. This allows flexibility to change when new technologies become available.
Standing Rule 14 was created when the World Service Conference switched from being a physical meeting to a virtual meeting. When the conference met in person, only members in the room could participate. With a virtual meeting, a new rule was created to ask all who speak or vote during the conference be visible to other members in the conference. There is an option to request an exception to this rule when special circumstances apply. A member that wants an exception can ask the facilitator.
Standing Rule of Order number 15, transferring the vote to/from delegate to alternate. SRO 15 describes the procedure for transferring the vote from delegate to alternate and from alternate back to delegate. Each procedure at a conference has its own name and is described in detail in Robert's Rules of Order, which are a century-old list of all such large business meeting procedures. Important rules for World Service conferences and how to use them are covered in the pre-conference training sessions. The most important is listed in the Standing Rules of Order. A delegate holds a vote unless it is transferred. When transferred, it is held by the alternate until formally transferred back. To transfer, the vote holder loudly states, "Point of privilege." Hearing this, the facilitator recognizes the vote holder, who announces the transfer back to the other, and the conference secretary records the transfer. Until that has occurred, the change of the designated holder of the vote is incomplete. If the words "point of privilege" are not said, only the original vote holder can vote, and if absent when the vote is called, the region's vote on the motion will not be counted. This is why, at a World Service Conference, the point of privilege is the most important of the points in Robert's Rules.
Standing Rule 16 significantly changes how World Service Conferences, WSC, minutes are approved and made available. Previously, the approval of minutes from the final day of the conference would have been delayed for 2 years, waiting for the next conference cycle. At the 2023 WSC, the parliamentarian recommended changing the approval process, emphasizing that it was inappropriate to delay the availability of official records for that long of an extended period. To address this concern, Standing Rule 16 was implemented at the end of the 2023 WSC, allowing a special committee to approve the minutes on the final day of the conference. The special committee consisted of the chair of the World Service Board, the chair of the World Service Conference Committee, one delegate selected by the conference secretaries. This change allowed the conference to make the minutes available much sooner, reducing the waiting period and improving access to conference records.
Rule 17 augments Rule 5. The motions described in Rule 5 are the motions included in the conference agenda report, the CAR. The motions covered by Rule 17 are additional motions that have arisen after the deadline for the CAR. Sometimes supplemental motions are written in advance. Sometimes supplemental motions are created during the conference. When possible, these supplemental motions should be put in writing, sent to the conference secretary, and then shared so others can review and translate these motions. Rule 18 augments Rule 6. Rule 6 covers those amendments that arise during the conference. Rule 18 applies to amendments that are created before the conference begins. All amendments, as covered by Rule 6 and Rule 18, should be sent in writing to the conference secretary. When amendments are submitted in advance, members can review and translate them. Advanced knowledge can help the conference reach an informed decision.
Rule 19 simplifies the process of changing the standing rules for future conferences. The rule says that the final approved rules in effect at the end of this conference will be inserted into the Guide to World Services. It is the rules in the Guide to World Services that are the starting point for the proposed standing rules for the next conference. Before this rule, it was often necessary to pass 2 motions to make one change. One motion would change the standing rules that are in effect during a conference. The other motion would ask to have the Guide to World Services updated. Since this rule came into effect, the process of updating the standing rules has been simplified.